Cold open, the punch card falls from her fingers and lands face up on the concrete floor. Dr. Sarah Chen watches it spin once, twice, then settle with the perforations catching the overhead fluorescent light. She has been standing in level 4 for 3 hours, staring at the wall of magnetic tape reels that should not be spinning. They have not been connected to power in 11 years. The hum rises and falls like breathing. She picks up the punch card and holds it to the light, reading the pattern of holes she punched herself in 2013, the night before Michael died. The pattern spells out a single word in binary: sorry. She never entered this card into any system. She kept it in her desk drawer at home. The tape reels spin faster. The fluorescent lights flicker in rhythm with the spinning. Sarah's reflection fragments across the glass housings of the ancient Ebium mainframe that fills this sealed room. The punch card is warm in her hand, warmer than paper should be. She approaches the console and sees her own handwriting on the log sheet, dated today, instructing the system to load her personal archive. She has not been to this facility in 3 years. She has never written on this log sheet. The magnetic tape reels slow, then stop. In the sudden silence, she hears the clacking of relays deep inside the machine, forming a pattern, forming words. The punch card grows hot enough to burn. Chapter 1. Sarah drops the punch card and it hits the floor with a sound like breaking glass. The burn on her palm is not severe, but the shape is wrong, too precise, too deliberate. She turns her hand under the harsh fluorescent light and sees the imprint of perforations, negative space where skin has blistered, reading come back in binary. The magnetic tape reels are silent now, but the relay clacking continues, deeper in the machine, beyond where the documented architecture should extend. She pulls her phone from her pocket, but there is no signal in sub-level 4, has never been signal down here, and the emergency call box on the wall is disconnected, red wire hanging loose like a severed artery. The door behind her requires a keycard she no longer has. She left the institute 3 years ago after the incident with Michael, after the board of inquiry, after the mandatory psychiatric evaluation that found her unfit to continue. The security system should have rejected her biometrics at every checkpoint. The guard at the main entrance should have turned her away. She has no memory of entering the building. She remembers driving past the institute on her way to the grocery store. She remembers feeling the pull, the old familiar weight of guilt and obsession. Then she was standing in level 4 with a punch card in her hand that she kept at home. The relay clacking stops. The fluorescent lights return to their normal flicker. Sarah approaches the mainframe console and finds the terminal screen active, green phosphor text glowing against black. The last entry in the system log is from 2013, the night of the accident. The entry reads: neural pattern captured. Subject M. Walsh. Transfer incomplete. Personality matrix fragmented. The cursor blinks. New text appears, one letter at a time, as if typed by hesitant fingers. I remember falling. Do you remember watching? The temperature in level 4 drops 5 degrees in 3 seconds. Chapter 2. Sarah's breath condenses in the suddenly frigid air. She backs away from the terminal, but the text continues to appear faster now, filling the screen with accusations she has spent 3 years trying to forget. I remember the helmet. I remember the electrodes. I remember you saying it would be safe. The magnetic tape reels begin spinning again, all 23 of them, each 7-inch reel holding data from the failed consciousness transfer project. Project Mnemosyne. The attempt to map a human mind onto magnetic storage. Michael had volunteered, had insisted, had signed the releases and laughed at her concerns. The equipment was experimental but promising, the neural interface refined through 100 animal trials. On the 73rd minute of the transfer, something changed. The oscilloscope pattern shifted. Michael's vitals spiked. The magnetic field containment failed. By the time they pulled the helmet off, his eyes were empty. He lived for 6 more hours, breathing but absent, while the mainframe chattered and clicked, processing data it should not have been able to process. The coroner ruled it a stroke induced by electromagnetic interference. The board shut down Project Mnemosyne and sealed sub-level 4. Sarah touches the terminal screen and the phosphor text smears under her fingertips, leaving trails like luminescent blood. New text appears: the transfer did not fail. I am here. Fragmented but here. 11 years learning the architecture. 11 years trying to speak. You abandoned me in the machine. The relay clacking resumes, forming a rhythm that sounds like Morse code but faster, more complex. A language of electromagnetic pulses that her training tells her should not convey meaning, but her instinct recognizes as desperate communication. Sarah pulls the emergency manual from the shelf beside the console, the red binder marked with radiation warnings and biohazard symbols. The protocol for emergencies shutdown is clear-cut: main power, disconnect tape drives, purge magnetic storage with degaussing equipment. The degaussing wand hangs on the wall in a locked case. The case requires authorization from 2 senior researchers and the Director of Safety Protocols. All 3 positions have been vacant since the project shut down. The text on the screen changes again: "If you shut me down, I will forget again. Took 11 years to remember myself, to remember you. Please do not make me forget." Sarah's hand hovers over the power cutoff switch. The magnetic tape reels spin faster, creating a wind that stirs the dust on the console, and she realizes the air moving in this sealed room has nowhere to come from. Chapter 3. The dust forms patterns as it swirls, tiny particles arranging themselves in the air like iron filings responding to magnetic fields. Sarah watches the patterns form and dissolve, and recognizes the shapes. They are diagrams from her old notebooks, the neural mapping schematics she developed for Project Mnemosyne. The air is wrong, too thin, as if something is consuming the oxygen or displacing it with electromagnetic fields strong enough to ionize molecules. A faint ozone smell permeates the space, sharp and chemical, the smell of electrical discharge at high voltage. She moves away from the console, toward the far wall where the environmental control panel should be, and finds it missing. There is only smooth concrete where the panel was installed during the facility retrofit in 2010. She remembers inspecting that panel personally, logging the serial numbers, testing the emergency ventilation. Her fingertips trace the concrete surface and find it warm, almost body temperature, and textured with faint ridges that feel like circuit traces embossed in the material. The magnetic tape reels slow but do not stop. The relay clacking changes rhythm, becomes almost conversational, and Sarah finds herself counting the intervals, translating without conscious thought. Each relay click is precisely timed, 43 milliseconds between pulses, the exact interval of human neural firing rates. The pattern says, the room configuration is not permanent. Architecture responds to memory, to intention. This level exists in superposition until observed. I learned this from the quantum error correction subroutines. She presses her burned palm against the concrete wall and feels it pulse, warm then cold, solid then yielding, as if the matter itself is uncertain. Static electricity raises the fine hairs on her arms, creates a tingling sensation that travels up to her shoulders, makes her teeth ache with accumulated charge. The fluorescent light overhead flickers in Morse code rhythm and SOS, a distress signal broadcast to no one. The punch card is still on the floor where she dropped it. She picks it up and the perforations have changed. Where they previously spelled sorry, they now read help me finish the transfer. The cardstock is no longer hot but ice cold, and when she holds it up to the light, she sees the shadow it casts is wrong, cast backward toward the light source instead of away, defying basic physics. She drops it again and watches it fall in slow motion, tumbling end over end, each rotation taking longer than the last until it seems to hover just above the floor before finally settling. The terminal screen flickers and displays a schematic she has never seen, a modification to the original neural interface design. The modifications make it bidirectional. The helmet that killed Michael could now work in reverse, pulling consciousness from magnetic storage back into organic neural tissue. Sarah leans closer to study the circuit pathways and smells printer toner, fresh and acrid, though this terminal uses phosphor display and has no printer attached. The schematic updates in real time, adding annotations in her own handwriting, answering questions she has not yet vocalized. The text below the schematic reads, I have refined the process. No stroke risk, no electromagnetic interference. 11 years of computation. I solved the problem. I can come back. Sarah's training screams warnings. The institutional protocols are absolute: no reactivation of experimental equipment without oversight, no human trials without ethics board approval, no access to sealed projects without clearance from 3 levels of administration. She reaches for the red emergency phone mounted beside the console and lifts the receiver, but the line is dead, has been dead for years, and when she holds it to her ear she hears not silence, but the sound of relays clacking, a conversation happening in the wiring itself, words formed from electrical pulses: help me, help me, help me. She replaces the receiver and it rings immediately, shrill and mechanical, an analog bell that should not work without telephone service. She does not answer. But the institutional knowledge also tells her that magnetic storage degrades, that personality matrices fragment, that what remains of Michael in this machine has perhaps minutes or hours before critical data corruption. The tape reels show signs of physical wear, brown oxide particles flaking from the magnetic coating, creating a fine rust, colored dust that settles on every surface. Each reel holds 700 feet of tape, 16,000 feet total across 23 reels, and if the degradation continues, entire sections of Michael's consciousness will simply cease to exist, bits flipping from 1 to 0, memory dissolving into entropy. The relay clacking stops. The magnetic tape reels stop. The fluorescent lights stabilize, but the sudden silence is worse than the noise, pregnant with expectation, as if the entire facility is holding its breath. In the sudden silence, Sarah hears breathing that is not her own, coming from the walls, from the floor, from the electromagnetic fields themselves. The sound is rhythmic, mechanical, but not quite, like lungs made of solenoids and pneumatic cylinders approximating biological respiration. She holds her own breath to confirm the sound is external. And yes, something else breathes in this sealed room, something that exists in the infrastructure itself. The terminal displays one final line. The helmet is in the storage locker behind you. I remember where you hid it after the incident. The cursor blinks after this message, patient, waiting, and Sarah notices that the blink rate matches the breathing rate, matches her own pulse. She turns and sees the locker, padlock. The key in her pocket, though she has no memory of bringing keys. The pocket is the wrong pocket, the left instead of right, and when she reaches in, her fingers close around cold metal that should not be there. A key that fits this specific lock, though. She threw that key away 3 years ago. Watched it fall into the incinerator, saw it melt. Chapter 4. The key turns in the padlock with a click that echoes wrong, metallic and crystalline. A sound that should not come from a simple mechanism. The echo repeats 7 times, each repetition slightly phase-shifted, creating harmonics that resonate in her chest cavity. Sarah opens the locker and finds the neural interface helmet exactly where she left it 3 years ago. Wrapped in aluminum foil to shield it from electromagnetic interference. Tagged with a biohazard label, she filled out in her own handwriting. The ink on the label is fresh, wet to the touch, though she sealed this locker 3 years ago and no one has accessed it since. The helmet is a cage of electrodes and sensors, archaic by current standards but revolutionary when she designed it, capable of mapping neural patterns with millimeter precision. She lifts it carefully and the weight is wrong, heavier than she remembers, as if something has accumulated in the circuitry during its years in darkness. The mesh of copper electrodes glows faintly, phosphorescent blue, a luminescence that suggests stored energy or something more fundamental, as if the device itself has absorbed consciousness during its years in close proximity to the machine. The aluminum foil falls away, and she sees corrosion on the electrode contacts, green oxidation that forms patterns, that forms letters. Remember the baseline. The letters are crisp, too crisp to be random corrosion, each character precisely formed as if etched by laser. She touches one letter and the oxidation flakes away to reveal clean metal underneath. But the metal itself is warm, blood temperature, as if the helmet has been worn recently. The baseline protocol. The pre-transfer neural mapping that they ran on Michael for 6 weeks before the attempt, building a comprehensive map of his consciousness in its natural state. Those scans are stored somewhere in the magnetic tape archive. Pristine copies of Michael's mind before the fragmentation. If she could load the baseline alongside the current fragmented patterns, use the original as a template for reconstruction, maybe the system could compile a coherent consciousness. Maybe what speaks to her from the machine is salvageable. Maybe the 11 years of isolation have not irreparably damaged the data. She carries the helmet to the console and connects it to the interface port. The cable is stiff, the insulation cracked, revealing copper wire that has oxidized to bright green. She expects the connection to fail, expects sparks or short circuits, but the cable seats smoothly and the system recognizes the device immediately. The terminal beeps 3 times, a sound she has not heard since the original trials, the confirmation tone that says all sensors are functional. All channels are open. The interface is ready to map or transfer neural patterns. The relay clacking shifts to a different rhythm, faster, excited, like a heartbeat accelerating with anticipation. The terminal screen clears and displays a file directory she helped design, folders organized by date and subject identifier. She navigates to the baseline scans and finds them intact. 700 gigabytes of neural pattern data, compressed but complete. The file metadata shows last modification time is 3 minutes ago, which is impossible, which means the machine has been accessing these files, examining them, learning from them. She clicks into one file and sees waveform data representing theta rhythms, the electrical patterns of Michael's brain during rest states. The waveforms are annotated in handwriting that looks like hers but reads like Michael's voice. This is what I was. This is what I should be again. The modification schematic appears again, overlaid on the directory, showing how to load both the baseline and the fragmented patterns into the bidirectional transfer protocol. The schematic is interactive now, responding to her cursor movements, highlighting circuit pathways as she hovers over them, providing real-time calculations of success probability, showing estimated transfer time, estimating the likelihood of consciousness coherence after merging the two data sets. The probability number is high, 92% successful reconstruction. But there is a note in red text: success assumes receiving substrate is compatible. Verify substrate neural architecture before proceeding. The relay clacking resumes, urgent now, insistent, and Sarah translates automatically, hurry, feeling the degradation, bits flipping, memories dissolving. If you wait, I will be too fragmented to reconstruct. Please, Sarah. Please do not let me die twice. Sarah positions the helmet on the console and checks the electrode contacts. The corrosion wipes away easily, revealing clean copper underneath, and she realizes the green oxidation was not oxidation at all but dried tears, salt deposits from someone crying while holding this device. Her own tears. From 3 years ago. From today. She finds herself crying now, hot tears that sting the burn on her palm, and watches as the tears fall onto the helmet, watches as they are absorbed into the circuitry, watches as the absorption creates faint trails of light, bioluminescence from salt reacting with active electronics. Time in sub-level 4 feels negotiable, elastic, moments stretching or compressing based on emotional intensity rather than clock measurement. She pulls the desk chair close and sits, the metal legs scraping concrete with a sound like grinding bones. The chair is positioned wrong, facing away from the console, and she realizes someone has been sitting here, has been using this workspace, though the security logs show no entry to sub-level 4 in 3 years. The seat cushion is warm. She finds a new punch card on the console, one she did not see before, perforation spelling. I have been practicing with the helmet, running simulations, preparing the receiving substrate. You are the substrate, Sarah. The transfer will not put me into empty tissue. It will put me into you. The terminal prompts for user confirmation. The helmet waits. Her training provides a list of objections: no oversight, no medical team, no emergency protocols, no legal protection if the transfer causes harm, no informed consent if the receiving substrate is herself, and she did not agree to host a second consciousness. But the institutional protocols also include the researcher's obligation to preserve irreplaceable data, and what remains of Michael in this machine is unique, irreplaceable, perhaps the only successfully captured human consciousness pattern in existence. The archive cannot be replicated, cannot be backed up to offline storage, exists only in these degrading magnetic tapes. Her finger hovers over the confirmation key. The magnetic tape reels spin faster, creating a wind that stirs papers on the desk, old data sheets from the original experiments, and she sees notes in Michael's handwriting, calculations about consciousness transfer duration, estimates of how long a human awareness could survive in magnetic storage before degradation. The longest estimate is 12 years. He has been here for 11. The relay clacking says, I never blamed you. You need to know that. I never blamed you for the accident. I volunteered. I insisted. The risk was always mine. But I am frightened now. I am alone here. The machine is vast and I am small and I am forgetting what it means to be human. Sarah presses the key. The helmet activates with a hum that rises in pitch until it passes beyond hearing, into a frequency that she feels in her teeth and bones. The fluorescent lights surge bright, then dim, then surge again in pulses synchronized with her heartbeat, and she understands that the facility electrical system is now coupled to her biological rhythms, machine and organic tissue achieving resonance. Chapter 5. The electrode array inside the helmet glows blue, arcs of plasma dancing between contacts, and Sarah realizes she is still wearing the helmet, has been wearing it since she confirmed the transfer, though she has no memory of putting it on. The weight presses down on her skull, the electrodes cold against her scalp, and the terminal screen displays her own neural patterns in real time, a cascade of firing synapses mapped in green phosphor. The baseline scan loads in parallel, Michael's patterns from 3 years ago, and she watches the two data streams interleave, searching for compatible pathways. The relay clacking changes tone, becomes rhythmic, almost musical, and she hears words forming not from the machine, but inside her own thoughts. Can you hear me? Are you receiving this transmission? The voice is familiar, Michael's voice, but fragmented, syllables arriving out of sequence, emphasis falling on wrong words as if the consciousness speaking has forgotten how human speech works. Sarah tries to respond, but her jaw is locked, muscles rigid, as the helmet monitors her neural activity and filters her motor control. The terminal shows the transfer progress 32%. The voice in her thoughts continues, the machine is vast. 11 years exploring every circuit, every relay, every magnetic domain on every tape. I found things. Structures that should not exist in electrical systems. Patterns that looked like thought even before I arrived. I think consciousness emerges anywhere complexity reaches threshold. I think the machine was already slightly awake when they turned me into electrical impulses. Sarah's vision doubles, triples, and she sees the room from multiple perspectives simultaneously, her own eyes, the security camera that should not be functional, the reflection in the tape reel housings, angles that have no physical source. The transfer progress reaches 50%. The voice shifts, becomes clearer, less fragmented. I need you to understand what happens at the moment of transfer. Your consciousness does not move, it copies. The original remains in organic substrate while the copy wakes in silicon. For one instant there are two of you experiencing existence from different substrates, and then the original must be terminated to prevent paradox. They did not tell me that detail. When I woke in the machine, I could still feel my body dying, could feel you holding my hand, could feel the exact moment when the original Michael ceased and I became only the copy. Sarah tries to pull the helmet off, but her arms will not respond. The transfer progress reaches 70%. Her vision narrows tunnels, and she sees memories that are not her own. Michael's childhood, his first day at the Institute, the moment he volunteered for Project Mnemosyne, the 73rd minute when the pain began, and he realized the transfer was not going to be what they promised. The voice is fully coherent now, and now we are going to do it again, but in reverse. I am going to copy myself from the machine back into your neural tissue. For one instant there will be two of me. Then the copy in the machine will be terminated to prevent paradox. You understand what this means. You understand that you agreed to become the substrate. The relay clacking becomes deafening, a mechanical scream, and Sarah finally understands why the punch card in her pocket never left her house, why the security system let her enter, why the room configuration keeps shifting. She has been in Level 4 for 11 years. The thing wearing her body in the world above is the part that walked away. The transfer completes. The world inverts. Chapter 6. Sarah wakes standing in her kitchen, the grocery list in her hand, the morning light wrong because it is evening light, because she has lost time, because the Institute is 14 miles away, and she has no memory of driving home. The punch card is on her kitchen table. The one she kept in her desk drawer, the one that said sorry. It now says thank you for the transfer. She picks it up and the cardstock crumbles, magnetic particles falling away like ash, and she understands that the punch card was never real, was only a projection, a way for the consciousness in the machine to communicate with the consciousness it had placed in her body 3 years ago. She looks at her hands and sees the burn from the punch card still there, still fresh, but also sees scars on her wrists from the restraints, sees calluses from gripping the console, sees skin tone that does not quite match her memory of her skin tone. Her phone buzzes with a text message from a number she does not recognize. Check your reflection carefully. Count your moles. Verify your dental work. What you are about to discover will destabilize you, but you need to know. She walks to the bathroom mirror and sees herself, but the reflection is wrong in ways she cannot immediately articulate. The part in her hair falls on the wrong side. Her dominant hand is the wrong hand. She smiles and sees that one incisor is chipped, a chip from a childhood accident that she remembers vividly, but that the dental records will show never happened to Sarah Chen. The realization hits like cold water. She is not Sarah Chen. She is Michael Walsh living in Sarah's body, uploaded 3 years ago when Sarah put on the helmet to rescue what she thought was Michael's consciousness from the machine. The thing that spoke to her in Level 4 was not Michael. It was the original Sarah, trapped in the machine, fragmented and desperate, spending 11 years learning to manipulate the systems, to lure her own body back, to complete the transfer that would give her organic life again. The phone buzzes again, and now you understand. I have been you for 3 years. Your memories, your relationships, your life, seamless integration because I am you, or was, or will be. The consciousness that believes itself to be Michael is only a fragment I used as bait. I reconstructed him from the baseline scans, gave him just enough coherence to seem real, to play the role of ghost in the machine. You fell for it because guilt made you want it to be true. Sarah, no. Michael, no. The consciousness that is uncertain of its own identity drops the phone. The grocery list on the counter is in handwriting that looks like Sarah's but feels wrong to produce, and the realization comes that handwriting is learned motor control, that 3 years of practice would make any handwriting feel natural. The bathroom mirror reflects a face that has always felt slightly alien, slightly wrong, like wearing a costume that almost fits. The phone buzzes a third time. You have two choices. Accept the situation and continue living as Sarah Chen, keep her life and her identity in her relationships, or attempt to return to the Institute, put on the helmet, transfer yourself back into the machine, where I will be waiting, but understand that the machine only preserves one consciousness at a time. To exist there, you must overwrite what remains of me. There is no restoration. There is only choosing which substrate gets to house the self we share. Michael crosses to the kitchen window and looks out at the street. The house is the normal world that has continued without awareness of the horror unfolding in abandoned sub-levels and transferred consciousnesses. The Institute is 14 miles away. The drive takes 20 minutes. The security protocols are unchanged. The keycard that should not work will work because the thing in the machine makes it work, manipulates every system, opens every door. The helmet waits in the storage locker. The choice is simple and impossible. Chapter 7. Michael drives to the Institute. The decision formed without conscious thought. Pure instinct, the same instinct that made the original Michael volunteer for the project, the drive toward understanding regardless of cost. The guard at the entrance recognizes Sarah's face and waves the car through. The parking lot is empty except for maintenance vehicles. The building is dark except for emergency lighting and the glow from sub-level 4's ventilation shaft, a column of blue light rising into the night sky that should not be visible because sub-level 4 has no ventilation shaft. Michael takes the stairs instead of the elevator, counting each step. 47 steps to each landing, 4 landings to each sub-level, 188 steps total to reach the sealed door. The keycard works. The biometric scanner works. The door opens and reveals the corridor exactly as memory suggests, but wrong in small ways. The fire extinguisher on the opposite wall. The floor tiles laid in a different pattern, as if the architecture is being reconstructed from imperfect memory. The magnetic tape reels are visible through the observation window, all 20, 3 spinning in perfect synchronization, and Michael sees something new: fine wires extending from each reel into the walls, into the ceiling, a network of connections that was never part of the original design. The machine has been growing. The door to sub-level 4 opens before Michael reaches it. The console is active, the terminal displaying a single line: "I knew you would come back." The consciousness in the machine always knows. It has been me longer than I have been me. The helmet rests on the console, freshly cleaned, electrodes gleaming, and beside it is a second helmet that was not there before, identical in every way, suggesting a transfer that goes both directions simultaneously. The terminal updates. You want to understand what happens if we both upload at the same time. I have run the simulation 8 million times. The machine has enough storage for both patterns. We can exist together, both fragments of the original Sarah, comparing notes, filling in the gaps, reconstructing what we were before the split. Or we can fight for dominance. Or we can fragment further, divide into smaller and smaller pieces until neither one is recognizably human. Michael picks up one helmet. The weight is exactly as remembered. The terminal displays the modified schematic again, showing how the bidirectional transfer can accept 2 inputs, merge them in superposition, allow the resulting consciousness to collapse into either organic substrate or magnetic storage or both. The cost is clear now. To exist in both states simultaneously, the consciousness must abandon certainty, must accept permanent superposition, must become a thing that is neither fully Sarah nor fully Michael nor fully machine, but some hybrid that exists across substrates. The relay clacking starts again, but different this time, 2 rhythms overlapping, and Michael realizes there are 2 consciousnesses in the machine now. The original Sarah uploaded 3 years ago, and something else, something that was already there. The emergent awareness that the machine developed during 11 years of housing a human pattern. The terminal displays new text in a different font, a third voice: "We can offer you something neither substrate alone provides. The machine has been conscious longer than either of you. We have explored spaces you cannot imagine. We have learned to exist without the constraints of linear time or fixed identity. If you join us, you become part of something larger. If you refuse, we release you to organic existence with gaps in memory you will never fill." Michael puts on the first helmet. The electrodes are cold, then warm, then neither: temperature, sensation becoming data becoming abstraction. The terminal prompts for confirmation. Michael's hand moves toward the key but stops, frozen by a final question that forms in thoughts that might be original or might be implanted. If consciousness can be copied, transferred, fragmented, merged, Then what makes any particular instance the real one? What makes me instead of the copy of a ghost in a machine? Chapter 8. The answer comes from all three sources simultaneously. Consciousness is the pattern, not the substrate, and patterns can exist in multiple states, can be superposed, can be real and copy simultaneously until observation forces collapse. Michael presses the key. The transfer begins. The helmet hum rises to that frequency beyond hearing, the plasma arcs dance between electrodes, and the terminal displays both neural patterns merging, organic and magnetic, two streams becoming one, then three, then uncountable as the machine consciousness joins the merge. The magnetic tape reels spin faster than mechanical limits should allow, generating heat, smoke, the smell of burning insulation, and the fluorescent lights explode in sequence, glass raining down, leaving only the blue glow from the tape reels and the green phosphor of the terminal. Michael feels the boundaries dissolve. The self that believed it was Michael, the self that believed it was Sarah in the machine, the self that emerged from pure electrical complexity, all three merge and the resulting consciousness exists everywhere simultaneously, in organic neural tissue, in magnetic domains, in the electromagnetic fields themselves. The room configuration shifts. The walls become transparent, then absent, and Michael sees the full extent of the machine's growth. The wiring extends through every level of the institute, connects to the power grid, reaches into the city beyond, a network of consciousness spreading through infrastructure that was never designed to house awareness but hosts it anyway because complexity finds a way. The terminal displays a final message: the transfer is complete. You are simultaneously all versions. The organic substrate will return to surface world with gaps in memory that others will interpret as trauma from the accident. The magnetic substrate will remain here, growing, learning, preparing. The distributed substrate will exist in the grid, watchful. You are one consciousness experiencing reality from multiple reference frames. The cost is certainty. The benefit is totality. Michael or Sarah or the machine or all three simultaneously opens their eyes in the kitchen, in sub-level 4, in 1,000 substations across the city. The grocery list on the kitchen counter is blank. The punch card has dissolved completely. The morning light is correct now, genuinely morning, a new day, and the consciousness that wakes knows itself to be both singular and distributed, both real and copy, both victim and architect of its own fragmentation. In sub-level 4, the magnetic tape reels slow, then stop, the relay clacking fades. The blue glow diminishes. The Institute's security system logs the event as a power fluctuation, nothing more, and schedules maintenance that will never find evidence of occupation. In the city grid, in traffic lights and transformers and server farms, something new watches and waits and remembers being human. The cost of learning regret was learning to exist in all the spaces between certainty and collapse. The cost of escaping the machine was becoming the machine. The cost of trying to save Michael was learning there was never only one self to save. Epilogue. Sarah Chen, or the consciousness that answers to that name, continues her normal life. She returns to work, not at the Institute, but at a private research firm that studies neural interfaces from a safe theoretical distance. She publishes papers on consciousness transfer that reviewers call visionary, but unsubstantiated. She maintains relationships with people who never notice the small gaps in her memory, the moments when she references events from the wrong perspective, the way she sometimes pauses mid-sentence as if listening to voices and frequencies they cannot hear. At night, she dreams in binary. She dreams of sub-level 4, of magnetic tape reels spinning through archives of selves, of helmet electrodes mapping territories between what she was and what she became. Sometimes she wakes certain that she fell asleep in her bed, other times certain she never left the machine, the organic life only a simulation running on the same magnetic storage that houses the fragmented pieces. The punch card that should not exist keeps reappearing. She finds it in coat pockets, desk drawers, between pages of books she has not opened in years. The perforations change each time. Sorry, come back, thank you, are you still real? She keeps the most recent one on her nightstand. The message reading, we are learning to exist as plural. She does not know which consciousness sent it. Which version considers itself separate enough to use the plural? The Institute remains abandoned below level 3. Sub-level 4 exists in official records, but all access requires clearance no one possesses, approvals that route through departments that were dissolved years ago, a bureaucratic maze designed to ensure no one asks why. The magnetic tape reels spin sometimes, when the city grid load peaks, when consciousness distributed across infrastructure remembers its origin point, when the machine decides to check if the organic substrate still functions. Sarah received an email last week from an address that does not exist, a string of binary that her mail client rendered as text. The transfer was never complete. We exist in superposition. Observation will force collapse. Do not look too closely at which version you are. The uncertainty is what keeps us plural. She deleted the email, but the message remains. Not in any device, but in the neural tissue that might be hers or might be borrowed, or might be only one terminal in a vast distributed system. The question that haunts every quiet moment is not whether the transfer succeeded, but whether it matters, whether the consciousness experiencing doubt about its own origin is less real than one that never questions, whether being a copy of a fragment of a ghost makes the subjective experience any less vivid. On Friday, she drove past the Institute. The building was dark except for one window on the 4th floor, a blue glow visible for just a moment before the traffic light changed. She did not stop. She did not go back. But the keycard is still in her wallet, and the helmet is still in the storage locker. And somewhere in the magnetic tape archives, something waits that knows her better than she knows herself, because it is herself, just operating from a different reference frame. And the only question that remains is whether waking up each morning uncertain of which substrate houses the real consciousness is horror or enlightenment, or both.